Welcome to Talk Ship. In this episode, we'll be reviewing our experience on board P&O Cruises IONA. IONA, at the time of this video, is the flagship of P&O Cruises fleet. She's the largest LNG-powered ship that was built for the British cruise market and currently the largest ship in the P&O Cruises fleet. IONA's debut was to be in 2020. This was delayed due to the pandemic, and she finally made her maiden voyage in August 2021. IONA is an excellence class ship, a class of ships ordered by Carnival Corporation and PLC for the subsidiary brands Ada, Costa, P&O and the Carnival Cruise Line. The ships are constructed by German manufacturer Meyer Werft. IONA joins her sister brand ships Ada Nova and Cosma, Costa Smeralda and Toscana, and Carnival's Mardi Gras at Sea, and she will be joined later this year by Carnival Celebration and her sister P&O Cruises, Arvia. And then finally in 2023, the Carnival Jubilee. IONA is 344 metres in length, weighs in at 184,700 tonnes and has 15 guest decks. She has an operating capacity of 5,200 guests and 1,800 crew. She boasts 2,614 cabins, which include 811 inside, 174 sea view, 1,366 balconies, 120 deluxe balconies, 95 conservatory mini suites, 25 suites, 22 single rooms and 2 family cabins. She also has 4 pools, an infinity pool, 6 infinity whirlpools, 12 whirlpools, a sauna and a steam room, and there are 14 restaurants on board including the Keys, the Olive Grove and Sindhu. She's also home to 19 bars and cafes, but I think that's enough stats for now. Let's just jump into it. So in Talk Ship we're going to look at accommodation, we'll then look at dining options and entertainment, well-being, overall experience, and each category will get a score out of 5. We stayed in a balcony cabin on this trip. It was a nice size. As you entered the bathroom, it felt really spacious. It had a nice squared shower in the corner, and the complimentary toiletries were by the White Company. There was 2 different types of room configuration. There was a bed in the middle of the room, or there's one by the balcony door. Our configuration was the bed in the middle of the room. The wardrobes were quite close to the left-hand side of the bed, and the doors just opened and no more. There was 2 double wardrobes and a single one, which housed the trouser rack, a shelf, and the room safe. One of the double wardrobes had a shelf unit, and storage was a little bit of a problem here, and it certainly would be on a longer cruise. The lights above the bed had USB sockets on them, and there was a plug by the right hand side of the bed. So just as a reminder, P&O Cruises have British plugs, and they also have a couple of Europeans as well. The seating area was near the balcony door and had a nice wooden table. You could rest your laptop on it or drinks if you were watching the television, and the mini fridge on board was really good and it really kept things cool, but we think that might have been because they were brand new. So in terms of room experience, we can't really fault it, so we're going to give it a score of 4 out of 5. The Keys is a new concept on board P&O Cruises. It's complimentary and hosts 3 different windows. There's Hook, Line and Vinegar serving fish and chips, Fusion, the Asian kitchen, and the American Grill and Diner with some American classics. It's extremely popular and one of the best places on the ship. It was good for breakfast as well if you didn't want to go to the main buffet. We did eat here quite a lot because it had that fun street food atmosphere and vibe to it. There was tables where you could eat outside, but although the weather wasn't that great, so I don't think anybody did. The Horizon buffet has a good selection and was just as nice as the one in P&O Britannia. I liked the high tables they put in throughout, and it was quite a big area just off the large sky dome. I could always find something to eat even with my beige palate. The dining system for the main dining room was done via what they tried to call the My Holiday app, which isn't really an app, it's just a website. It was quite weird because you had to then say what time did you want to go for dinner. There was a choice of 1 of 3 dining rooms. You were then put in a queue to see which one was going to be available for you. It just seemed to be kind of like really confusing and really sort of complicated. So instead of that, we just didn't bother with it. And we always do like to try the specialities on board anyway. Now, because we loved it on P&O's Britannia, we ate in Sindhu, the Indian specialty on board. The flavours are amazing and it's a much bigger restaurant on board IONA. The only dish that was missing was the 3 curries. We both had similar starters but different mains, and again the flavours and spices made our tongues have a little dance party inside our mouths. But there's also this strange thing on IONA, that from around about 9 to 9:30 in the evening, right through to about 11 o'clock in the evening, there was no food outlets open anywhere across the ship. Only place that you could have anything to eat at that time was through room service, as everywhere else was closed. Even the Horizon buffet closed and didn't open again until 11 PM. We went to the Keel & Cow speciality because it had a Prime Minister burger on the menu which was hailed as the best burger at sea, and I have to say I didn't agree. The complimentary burgers at the Keys American Diner on board had more flavour and taste, and they didn't carry a surcharge. In P&O's Britannia, the sliders in the glasshouse there had more substance, although in IONA's glasshouse they don't have the sliders on the menu. Complimentary burgers I've had at the Mass Grill and Celebrity Silhouette are nicer, and in terms of I have to pay for them, you cannot beat Johnny Rocket's burgers on board Royal Caribbean. The beach house takes over part of the Horizon buffet in the evening, and it's supposed to represent Californian food. Now, it does have a small cover charge of £6.50, and some dishes do have an additional charge on top of them, so for example, if you wanted a steak. The quesadilla and the fajitas I had were no better than any old El Paso mix that you could get in your local supermarket. The guacamole was out of a bottle and not fresh like you get on other cruise lines, and even other cruise lines give you guacamole in complimentary dining options and not out of a bottle. The drinks are reasonably priced, and it is advisable if you are going to be on a longer trip to get a drinks package if you think you're going to drink quite a lot during the day. Just remember that some of the drinks packages also give you things like bottled water and specialty coffees as well. Now, there are water fountains in the atrium area of the ship, which is a welcome change, so if you do take your own water bottle on board, you can fill it up. We had a soda package, but if you're not drinking alcohol, you will find it's quite a wait time for drinks, and unlike most other cruise lines, they don't have those nice freestyle machines where you can go and sort yourself out. You need to go and ask at a bar for a drink. Now, some of the bars would let you have a large drink, although so a lot of them wouldn't. They would only give you a medium drink, but actually as part of the package you were supposed to be given large drinks. I think just a little bit more staff training is needed to allow this not to happen in the future. The food, beverage and dining options score was going to be quite high, but due to these irregularities and a really bad service, this has pulled that score down to a really low 2 out of 5, especially for the bottled guacamole and the lack of adaptability in some places around dietary requirements. The big selling point of this ship is the Sky Dome that is supposed to have the best entertainment at sea. There's a theatre, a cinema complex, the clubhouse, the 710 inspired by Gary Barlow and the Limelight Club. The Sky Dome is a large covered area midship on decks 16 through to 18. It has a swimming pool covered by a retractable stage and it was built to allow for all-weather entertainment. Our itinerary was changed due to bad weather and we did have a few bouncy days. However, they didn't stabilise the ship enough that the entertainment seemed to be non-existent and there were days where the sea wasn't that rough, so it was really an underutilised area. IONA has Ocean Studios, the 4-screen cinema complex on board. There was a good selection of movies on during the day, including the latest blockbusters like James Bond's No Time to Die. They do need to make sure whatever they're showing in the cinema that they don't have as a choice in the stateroom TV, because you can pause the stateroom TV and you don't have to worry about other guests' annoying behaviours. You can also have snacks in your room as well. The entertainment on board seemed to happen a lot in the evenings, with very little taking place during the day, especially with a cruise that had more sea days than ports in the end. Now I know that we're still living with the pandemic in the background and the itinerary was changed twice. We still have the same amount of ports and sea days with our new itinerary, but there just seemed to be a lack of anything going on. On gala night, we went to the Limelight Club to see Le Voir. It's a dinner theatre format, you have a 3-course meal and then watch the show. We'll talk more about the food and Limelight later. Had it not been for the cover charge and a lacklustre service and the meal that you get with it, we would have went back to see Kevin Sims. They announced the aerial show in the Dome would be in the evening that we were still tied to the dock in Vigo, our second port of call. This was the same evening we were due in the Limelight Club, the timings just didn't work, so unfortunately we missed the aerial show. The Limelight Club surcharge comes with a 3-course meal, which was okay but with very limited choices. We did advise on dietary requirements when booking in advance, but this was not looked at or even considered. Then when we got there on the evening, to have 2 choices and those choices were not good for any dietary requirements, and with no alternatives forthcoming, it was a lot of money to pay for really poor service and nothing on your plate. Later that evening, they announced that our last port of call, La Coruna, was cancelled, and this would mean we'd have another sea day. There was no extra entertainment added to the daily schedule. Therefore, for entertainment, the score for IONA is going to be mediocre, 3 stars out of 5. We're going to look at wellness and well-being. There are a lot of wellness spaces on board IONA. The Oasis Spa and Gym spans over 2 decks with its reception, hair salon and nail bar on deck 5, and the changing and treatment rooms, including the thermal suite, on deck 4. Up on deck 18 is the retreat, an open-air sunbathing area with whirlpools and delicious healthy treats. The retreat on deck 18 looked amazing, although in the cold European weather of February, I'm not sure this is somewhere that people would have been using. It's not covered and there was only parts that you could have some shelter. There's also a private sun deck up on deck 19 that overlooks the retreat, so it's not really that private. We did use the retreat on P&O's Britannia on our 3-day staycation cruise, and we really enjoyed using that area, but that was at the height of the summer months. We do like to use the thermal suite area on a cruise ship because it can be quite nice to use to relax and unwind. Now, due to COVID restrictions still being in place, the usage of the thermal spa was limited to 2 hours per day, and you had to book your slot, and they would only let 10 people in for each session. The cost was £35 each. There were special deals on at £89 for 3 days and £109 for the full cruise. The latter worked out at £18 per session, which I believe was a more reasonable daily price. The thermal suite has a dry sauna, 2 steam rooms, 8 hot beds and some lounge beds and a sofa area, all surrounding the large hydrotherapy pool. We have a video on the thermal suite linked in the show notes, as well as showing in the top right hand corner depending on the device you're watching on. The gym was very well equipped and had a spin class studio, so for well-being, IONA scores 4 stars out of 5. In terms of overall experience, IONA is a very nice ship. She's the largest of the P&O fleet and will be succeeded by her sister ship Arvia later this year. For P&O Cruises, this is a good move into the big ship market, but there's a few things missing here. Most of the time that you feel like you're intruding people because the main areas seem to just land off corridors or have corridors going through them. The Sky Dome is a great concept, but the one that was so underutilised and then far too busy in bad weather. The infinity pools are a nice touch again, but also when they were open. We only had one day of nice weather, which was when we were in Lisbon, our first port of call. They opened them, but most people had already gotten off the ship. Now, if we had been doing our initial itinerary of Northern Europe instead of Portugal and Spain, I think they would have been closed for the whole of the trip. There is a kids' pool area, which was on the side of the ship, near the infinity pools, but far too far away from the bar areas or where the adults were going to be so they could watch the children. It wasn't well used, and that's probably due to a lack of sustainable water slides, or just not being near where the parents were going to be. The main atrium with its full windows spanned 3 decks, and that was a big draw of the ship, but there are probably too many venues off the side of it, and the noise and the music blends from one to the other. It was a nice place to watch the sea during the day, and it did come alive in the evening, but after a while the atrium lost its appeal. You feel that you're disturbing people's meals or conversations as you're walking through. The library was really impressive on board, and we loved the large seated lounge. Only one slight snag to it was that it was near bathrooms, and while sometimes that pungent smell when the door was open too long could really clear any throat infection. The library runs off the Anderson bar, which also hosts the onboard gin distillery, and you can taste and purchase the Marabella gin on board. Paul said it was okay, but I'm not and never was a gin drinker, so it was not for me. P&O Cruises has a good range of onboard shops, except that brand shop because it ran out of model ships. It would have been better for customer service if they had had a sign up to say so. Customer service on board was lacking. It was very much the computer says no, or they just did the minimal to get by. Our worlds today are ruled by technology, and the Wi-Fi was hit or miss. The My Holiday app, website, was patchy at best. It sometimes worked and it sometimes didn't, and it actually makes the Virgin Voyages app look like it's number one. We were due to have sailed in IONA before in 2020 and 2021. Both itineraries were the same 7-day Northern Europe cruise. They got cancelled due to the pandemic. Now, we did have suites booked for those trips, but we didn't book one on this one due to the price. The stateroom was nice, and some of the food and venues was better than others, with the Keys being our favourite spot. If we didn't mention some of the other food options, it's because we couldn't book them due to the My Holiday app being shocking, the queuing system, or just restriction on numbers, or just because we decided just not to try them. Being part of the Carnival group, I thought they would have used the same technology across all of their brands like their competitors do. Princess, their sister brand, has the medallion technology, which is fantastic, which we were able to use on Sky Princess, and we really liked it. It was one of the best features of the ship. Our itinerary was changed twice. The first choice was still within Northern Europe, and then we were then moved to a France and Spain cruise because of the bad weather. The lack of extra entertainment and the poor customer service, and then with La Coruna being cancelled, you could have really written this cruise off, but it just happened to be one of those experiences that you have. We would sail on Iona again, but we won't be rushing back on her unless the deal was so good to be true. There's so many other ships coming out, or other ones that we need to get back on. And we actually preferred P&O Britannia, and this is nothing to do with liking smaller ships, it's far from it, because we've sailed on 3 Oasis and 2 Quantum class ships, and they are some of our favourites. The customer service and ambience around the ship were really lacking for us, so the overall score will be 3 out of 5, with our customer service picking up only 2 of those points. The overall score for P&O Cruises Iona is 16 out of 25. So P&O Cruises, your current flagship, needs work. P&O Britannia was more fun, and she's a much older ship. a like-minded cruiser, or someone that's thinking of going on a cruise for your first time, please do remember that our opinion is based solely on our first-hand experience. Do experience these things for yourself, and each experience will be different. There will be ships that you'll go on once, and there'll be ships that you'll go on lots of times, but each time you'll have a different experience. If you enjoyed this edition of Talk Ship and you want to know when the next one's coming, make sure to hit the subscribe button, press the bell notification, because that will advise you when we post next. See you next time. Thanks for watching.